Hello, everyone. Today I'm going live with after a long, long time because I thought that this live stream that I've been doing was not really going up to the mark, and I thought like let me give it some time before I resume it further. And in the meanwhile, I produced a lot of videos on the topics that I've been discovering, talking about in my on my YouTube channel. So if you're new to this channel, let me tell you that I talk about book reviews, tips on book reading, how to improve your book reading skills. And recently, about 2 months back, I've introduced this feature wherein I'll be talking about trending topics, be it geopolitics, economy, things affecting our country and the world, and things around the country. All of that would be covered in detail. So that's the plan. And during this time, when I was not doing any live stream, I really wanted to, because what was happening was that मैं live stream कर रहा था और मैं बुक पढ़ता था, और बुक पढ़ते पढ़ते बहुत टाइम लग रहा था, और इस बीच में वो जो गैप होता है, probably not many people, probably something that not many people are used to, or maybe they are used to, and I'm not aware. So in the comments, if you I'm sure that right now not everyone is would be watching, because almost 1 o'clock right now. It's 1 5 at this point in time. And but once this stream is over, and you get to watch it tomorrow whenever you wake up, or later in the day, or day after, whenever you have the time to, um, the idea is to I want to ask this question, that क्या आप लोग चाहते हैं कि ये एक लॉन्ग फॉर्म ऑफ सेशंस चलें, जिसमें कि मैं बुक रीड करूं और बुक के बारे में बात करूं इन चैप्टर्स, आई मीन तोड़ तोड़ के, बिकॉज एक चैप्टर पढ़ा उसके बाद मैंने बात करी. And should I continue this sort of live streaming session, because I've just done about 3 or 4, and this is the last of this month. And I began with live stream sessions initially in the first week of August, and then eventually I didn't do anything much of a live stream in the mid of the month and days after that. लेकिन उसके बाद मैंने decide किया कि I'll do something really fruitful. So my idea is to get more engaging and talk to you regularly while I'm doing the live stream. So the book that I've read completely, I mean, I talked about this book earlier as well, but while I was making the videos on trending topics, I did not get the time to actually complete this book, but I could complete this book eventually. और मैं इसमें बात करूँगा in total exactly what this book is all about. This is Land of the Gods by Arjun Singh Kedian. I really want to know more about India and its states. So अगर आप लोग कोई book पढ़ रहे हैं या फिर आपको पता है, please suggest me a book that something that I would want to read, and let me know if you have any book in mind. सो इस बुक में मैंने ऑलरेडी पहले बात कर चुका हूँ, लेकिन फिर भी मैं इन अ नटशेल आई लेट यू नो एग्जैक्टली व्हाट दिस बुक इज़ ऑल अबाउट. इस बुक में बात की गई है हरियाणा की फ्रॉम 18th सेंचुरी ऑनवर्ड्स. इनिशियली एक इंट्रोडक्शन दिया गया कि हरियाणा कैसा स्टेट है एंड व्हाट इट इज़ ऑल अबाउट. बट इफ़ यू लुक एट व्हाट दे हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट इज़ हाउ जाट सरदार and nawabs in and around Haryana, which was part of a bigger Punjab province during the 18th century, when every other power except Mughals were trying to capture, and how the Mughals power declined over the years after Aurangzeb's demise. जब औरंगज़ेब मर जाते हैं और उनके बेटे आगे बढ़ते हैं, तो किस तरीके से मुगल डिनेस्टी डिक्लाइन पे आती है, और कैसे मराठास पाव में आते हैं, जो कि actually was the plan. And in the first battle of Panipat, and thereafter in the third battle of Panipat, when Ahmad Shah Abdali defeats the Maratha general Sadashiv Rao, and when he gets defeated, that is the end of uh, you know hold of Maratha's power in the north and in the Mughal Darbar, and that's when everything ends for Marathas and also the Hindu empire that could have been built. So एक बहुत important chapter है जिसमें कि बात कर रहे हैं which is later on after Jat, Sardars, and Nawabs. So let me tell you, the pehla chapter hai Jat, Sardar, and Nawabs, and then it moves to era of anarchy when this happens. Ahmad Shah Abdali, उससे पहले नादिर शाह अटैक करते हैं इंडिया पर. अहमद शाह अब्दाली 5 बार अटैक करते हैं और 5वीं बार में उनको इनवाइट किया जाता है in a way because Marathas were taking control over the Mughal empire, Mughal court, so to say, and Muslims didn't want that. So कुछ दरबारी होते हैं या फिर कुछ influential people होते हैं जो नहीं चाहते कि मराठास को पावर मिले नॉर्थ इंडिया में. एंड नॉर्थ इंडिया में अगर मुगल पावर आपके पास हाथ में, दिल्ली आपके हाथ में है, तो आपके हाथ में पूरा इंडिया एक तरीके से. तो अहमद शाह अब्दाली कम्स एंड डिस्ट्रॉयज मराठास इन द आई गिव यू द एग्जैक्ट डेट. सो इसमें बहुत सारी डिटेल में ये सारी बात की गई हैं. और उसके बाद क्या होता है इसकी बात की गई है कि किस तरीके से मराठास कम बैक टू पावर एंड दे ट्राई एंड टेक होल्ड ऑफ दिल्ली इवन आफ्टर द सेटबैक ऑफ अहमद शाह अब्दाली. सो ये सब इस बुक में बात की गई है और डिटेल में मैंने पिछली लाइव स्ट्रीम्स में बात की है, तो यू कैन गो अहेड एंड चेक इट आउट इन डिटेल. आई हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट एवरी particular topic that these chapters covered, era of anarchy covered. So let me come to the end of the chapter. Okay, era of anarchy, usse pehle. Okay. So, as I was saying to you, this happened during the Battle of Panipat in 1761. So that's when Abdali, Ahmad Shah Abdali attacked and, fought the battle with Marathas, the third battle of Panipat. And after that, there was complete chaos in Delhi because it was attacked and, by several other communities, including Ahmad Shah Abdali and, other, communities. And it was a total chaos at that point in time. And a lot of people actually have been mentioned here in the chapter Era of Anarchy, which is the second chapter, that what happens after this battle and how Maratha, takes time before they try and capture the Delhi capital again. So all of that has been captured here. Or then what happens is that a new power called English comes into power, and English Britishers take control of Delhi, and eventually the last nail in the head of Maratha's ambition to control Delhi and India comes to an end when in 1803 Anglo-Maratha battle happens, which is between इंग्लिश अंग्रेज़ ब्रिटिशर्स गोरे लोग और मराठाओं के बीच में. और उसके बाद एक तरीके से एक शिफ्ट हो जाता है एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का टुवर्ड्स ब्रिटिशर्स, और वो कंट्रोल पूरा ब्रिटिश के हाथ में चले जाता है. मराठास बिल्कुल ही वाइप्ड आउट हो जाते हैं. तो ये सब होता है इसमें. ये एक्सप्लेन किया गया. इन द फर्स्ट वॉर, इन दिस फर्स्ट वॉर दे टॉक अबाउट this chapter called First War. They explain what all happens basically after this 1803 Anglo-Maratha War. किस तरीके से सब लोग अपना अपना एक तरीके से एक रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन होता है अंडर ब्रिटिशर्स कि कौन कौन सी पावर लेगा, कौन कौन सी पावर लेगा. उसमें डिटेल में सारी एक्सप्लेन करी गई है कि जागीरदारीज और all that's covered in detail here. And एक नया जुडिशल सिस्टम आता है, पूरी तरह हरियाणा फॉर्म होता है, और मैंने ये सारा कवर कर रखा है अपनी पिछली लाइव स्ट्रीम्स में. यू कैन गो अहेड एंड चेक इट आउट. एंड आई हैव कवर्ड अप टिल द पॉइंट वेयर modern Haryana comes into picture. And I have talked about how various communities have contributed to the rise of Haryana. There is this guy called Sir Chotu Ram, who was a Haryanvi and a lawyer, and he, is from a poor family but is supported, and he gains respect of people around him because of his intelligence, because how he actually manages, his life. और वो कैसे कैसे आगे बढ़ते हैं, एंड इवेंचुअली ही कम्स इनटू पॉलिटिकल लाइफ, और कैसे ये हरियाणा का पूरा स्ट्रक्चर चेंज करते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ एजुकेशन, स्पेशली स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस बिल्डिंग इन एंड अराउंड हरियाणा, and also various other administrative affairs that it takes control of, especially Bhakar Nagal Dam, जो कि eventually set up हुआ, जो कि नेहरू जी ने inaugurate किया in the 50s, was the idea of सर छोटू राम. तो उन्होंने पूरा ड्राफ्ट किया वो एक रेजोल्यूशन, जहाँ पर बेसिकली जब भाकरा नाग गैंग से पानी नीचे आया प्लेन्स में, तो हरियाणा भी पार्ट बना इवेंचुअली उस uh, uh, pani ka, because pani was needed for harvesting in Haryana as well. So Haryana only became, it was only possible because Sir Chotu Ram made that treaty, and eventually उस एरिया में हिमाचल प्रदेश के जहाँ पर वो स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट होता है, जो कि एक कैचमेंट एरिया कहेंगे, वो है दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया कॉल्ड बिलासपुर. अगर आप अभी भी जाते हैं हिमाचल घूमने, तो आप अम्बाला क्रॉस करते ही जब ऊपर चढ़ते हैं, तो फर्स्ट आपका डिस्ट्रिक्ट पड़ता है बिलासपुर. एंड जब बिलासपुर हम जाएंगे तो एक बहुत बड़ा एरिया देखेंगे जहाँ पर रिवर एरिया है. वो बिल्कुल शायद वहाँ से रिवर फ्लो करती है, तो पंजाब से ही आती होगी, बिकॉज आई एम नॉट particularly sure about that fact, but I'm pretty sure that this is what the area that he talked about. तो ये सब सारा एक्सप्लेन किया गया है इसमें. और scripting the future chapter, it's very interesting, and it covers all of this. And then how Haryana was built, the new Haryana was built. That's what this chapter talks about. And then eventually it moves to the story of three Lals. Three Lals being, I mean, I was not really aware of their history like before I read this book. But once I read this book, I got a clear idea of what was happening in Haryana, who played a bigger role. So it talks about three Lals of Haryana, especially the three prominent politicians who shaped the history or the political future of Haryana from 1950-60 onwards, and then until the end of this last century, 2000, and after that, new leaders came into picture. Before that, there were three Lals: Bhajan Lal, Bansi Lal, and Devi Lal. So this book talks about these three prominent leaders, careers, in the chapter called Three Lal, and chapter following that of Chaudhar. So in that he discusses in detail, the writer, that what is happening in Haryana under them. And basically Devi Lal, is a prominent politician. He was called Tau, and he had his own faction, which came out of you know um, so let me just go through it once again. So as it clearly mentions here that in those days, Professor Sher Singh and Tau Devilal were rather obvious choice for the post of CM. मैंने शेर सिंह के बारे में, प्रोफेसर शेर सिंह के बारे में ऑलरेडी बात कर रखी है अपनी लाइव स्ट्रीम में. आप चेक कर सकते हैं लैंड ऑफ द गॉड्स लाइव स्ट्रीम, प्रीवियस लाइव स्ट्रीम. और इसमें Tau Devilal was a choice for CM, and but both the leaders had been expelled from the party, which is Congress. And 1962 assembly polls too, they had fought against Congress candidates. तो ये दोनों स्पेशली देवीलाल अलग हो जाते हैं कांग्रेस से, क्योंकि पहले सब अगर आप देखें तो एक ही पार्टी थी पूरी इंडिया में, which fought the independence movement and became the whole soul party initially, because समय इतने politics थी नहीं. तो this was Congress, and in Haryana too Congress played a big role then. And after that, what happens in 1966, 1967, in fact, Congress won a clear majority with 48 seats, and Bharatiya Jansangh, जो कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी बनी बाद में, took 12 seats. And the first CM of the state became Bhagwat Dayal Sharma. And that's where this trajectory of great Devilal, Tau Devilal starts. And so all of that is mentioned in this book. And you know in a nutshell, in this book you will this book talks about what Devilal did for initially for Haryana, and how he built Haryana. All of that is what is important here, and how Bansilal came into picture. And So let me just read out some of the important aspects here, of Devi Lal, Bansi Lal, and Bhajan Lal. So Bansi Lal in Haryana, Bansi Lal established a strong rule. The book says, however, with all his faults and pride and arrogance, Bansi Lal showed concrete results in improving the state of Haryana, but developments came at the cost of democracy. Bansilal ruled the state by entrusting his team of officers with power and responsibility, and that's how he grew. And he just progressed like that. And then it talks about let me just give out information about Devilal too. Okay, so we'll talk about Bansilal first. Bansilal was born in August 27, 1927 at Golagad, Bhiwani, and his family was related to the family of Seth Chajju. I've talked about him also. And with a degree in law, Bansilal started his small practice. Bansilal MLA Tosham won the election with 4% margin of votes. He was a Rajya Sabha member for a full 6-year term previously. So, it talks in detail about these, facts and figures, but it basically says that Bansilal, is established a strong rule in Haryana, and basically the events following his election and following his becoming CM, all of that has been mentioned here, and how basically Punjab and Haryana were fighting against each other because up until 1966, Haryana was still part of Punjab, and a lot of leaders wanted to separate from Haryana, separate Haryana from Punjab, and a lot of agitation happened back then, and so it says that in interesting government had even considered dividing Chandigarh between the two states, but thankfully came to the conclusion that it was not feasible. And post independence, Lahore, which was then the capital of Punjab, had shifted to a different country, which is Pakistan now. Lahore was built over centuries, and to replace it, we needed something really concrete. So planners decided to acquire villages in Kharar Tehsil. I'm talking about how they planned to build a capital for Punjab, Ambala district, but that would mean displacing more people from the region. It was also proposed to establish the capital of in Ambala. Some land may be taken from that region, and so all of that was happening in April 1952. Nehru visited the site and studied the layout of the town. and the spot lies in Sector 9 today, as could be marked as an inauguration of City Beautiful. And the planning of a new capital was undertaken by the French architect Le Corbusier. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. The head city center, the torso, and the industrial sector as a limb. So this is how Chandigarh was, built, came into picture, and so it in, it did in if let me give you out a little story about Professor Sher Singh was an important figure. He's called the father of Haryana. I mean, he was founder. He actually played a big role in making sure that Haryana was carved out from Punjab, and it got its share of resources and land that was needed, and that people in Haryana fought for, so that they also get a major share of land from Punjab and not be at a loss. So. Those incident had been mentioned here in detail. So I mean, this particular chapter in detail talks about the politics in Haryana, which was basically, uh, you know, um, headed by these three Lals, Bansi Lal, Bhajan Lal, and Devi Lal, at some point in time during the phase between 1960s, 70s, 80s, till up till 2000. So in these 40 years, they played a real big role after the Haryana was formed and took Haryana to different heights. Bansi Lal did his part by making sure, in this particular, there's a chapter where I just want to read that section where it says what basically uh, you know um, all of these people did individually. So Devilal excelled in rally politics and took pride in gathering. His persona could attract. His tall stature and a welcoming attitude made him stand apart from all the top leaders in the state. And he was trained as a wrestler in Badal village of Punjab, and he and his son would continue to share good relationship with that village and Badals for years. Badal means, and that's about Devi Lal. And there's some small facts. I'll just read out those facts again, because I'm not getting the history of these people in one part, and I have to just go through one from one page to another. So there's a case where Sanjay Gandhi, Indira Gandhi's son and heir to the throne of Indira Gandhi. Some people believe that after Indira Gandhi he will take over the Congress leadership and eventually lead the country as a prime minister. So he was an important person in the scheme of things. And Bansi Lal was trying to establish close connections with Gandhi family then, and Bansi Lal was part of Congress. And he Sanjay Lal wanted to bring Maruti, or the cars, production in India, and he wanted to build that thing. So as you all know, Gandhi's played a big role in making sure that Maruti came into existence. And Sanjay Gandhi wanted 75 acres of land, somewhere in the Delhi NCR region. And Bansi Lal made sure that, he ended up getting about 297 acres. I mean, almost close to more than four times that was actually proposed by Sanjay Gandhi as he wanted it. So, seeing so much of support of Bansi Lal, I mean, and for his project, Sanjay Gandhi was really happy, and so was Indira Gandhi. And they actually favored Bansi Lal, and they were in. I mean, Bansi Lal came in the good books of Gandhi's after this incident. So that's this book talks about. It's in on page 217, the Maruti saga. And then it talks about between 1967 to 74. A lot of land was acquired for industrial units and projects in Faridabad, and it became an important industrial unit. So if you see all those companies like Escorts and you know AC companies that are part of Faridabad was established back then. Frick, they established refrigerator unit, and Faridabad became an essential industrial hub. And it happened because of the successive governments, not just to these three lals. I mean, all of them contributed. And then it talks about this incident where Indira Gandhi ran this movement called, if today's generation would not be aware of it, but in the 1975, a lot of things happened back then. Indira Gandhi sterilization, and towns, villages, and people suffered because of this, and they were taken to these camps where Nasbandi happened, and they didn't have any control over it. I mean, they were doing it forcibly, and this led left a really bad taste in the mouth of people, and they had this horrible experience. So all of this is mentioned here in this book. And then it talks about Bansi Lal's family and Devi Lal's family, how they became a dominant figure, and they did what they wanted to. एक तरीके से एक छत्र राज हो गया, और ये लोग जो इनका मन करता था वही करते थे. तो ये सब इन्होंने मेंशन कर रखा है, और ये डिटेल में एक्सप्लेन कर रखा है. अगर आपको ऐसी पॉलिटिकल टॉपिक्स में इंटरेस्ट आता है और ऐसी चीज़ें आपको पसंद आती हैं, तो आपको ये बुक पढ़ने को बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. इस बुक में ये बात की गई है कि एक लठ दल का नाम से फेमस हो गया देवीलाल का. And all of that is mentioned in this book. So it will be an interesting read for you if you like to know about the history of Haryana or politics of Haryana under these three politicians, Devi Lal, Bhajan Lal, and Bansi Lal. I've not really gone in detail and explained to you, but what stood out, I've explained to you. There are lots of other things that you can actually read in this book, and pretty much the same thing gets covered in a book called Chowdhury. And then it talks about Devi Lal's son, Om Prakash Chautala, and how he ran his politics under Devi Lal's support and tutelage. And Devi Lal eventually हमारे डेप्यूटी प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी बने थे, जो वीपी सिंह, विशाल प्रताप सिंह इंडिया के प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे. तो उसके बारे में बात की गई है, वो सारी पॉलिटिक्स और कैसे कैसे सब कुछ हो रहा है. तो ये सारी इसमें बातें की गई हैं. लास्ट में चैप्टर है राइज एंड राइज, और इसमें बात की है कैसे पॉलिटिक्स चेंज हुई और कैसे हरियाणा चेंज हुआ है ओवर द ईयर्स. यहाँ मूर्थल के ढाबे आ गए हैं, यहाँ पर रेसलिंग चैंपियन आए जिन्होंने ओलंपिक्स में मेडल जीते हैं इंडिया के लिए. गोल्ड मेडल तो नहीं, लेकिन सिल्वर मेडल तक पहुँचे हैं. सुशील कुमार, अभी रवि दहिया ने जीता, और उससे पहले ब्रॉन्ज मेडल जीता था एक और पहलवान ने, जिनके शिष्य हैं बजरंग पूनिया. तो ये लोग सब योगेश्वर दत्त. So all of this has been mentioned here, and then it talks about how Haryana was carved out of Punjab. लेकिन Haryana eventually, uh, you know, became a more prosperous state because of its policy followed by its leaders, especially these Lals. You know, and Haryana right now is one of the richest state in the country up until 2011. This particular data is till 2011, and that's when the gross domestic product of Haryana took you know was more than Punjab's GDP. So it stood at 1,63,770 crore rupees in comparison to only 1,47,670 crore for Punjab. So this is mentioned, and then how the leaders, but few years back, Bhupinder Singh Huda, take took care of Haryana as well. And he invested in highways, land development, health service, infrastructure, and real estate. And a lot of people benefited from it. A lot of people made sure that they made became wealthy. This book talks about OP Jindal and the Jindal Industries, how they became prosperous in Haryana. So all of that's been covered here, and it's pretty much the writer of this book, Arjun Kadian, has given a holistic view of what Haryana was, before independence, and how it you know kind of became the state that it is now, in sports, in infrastructure, and various other fields. So ये सब इसमें मेंशन किया गया है. तो एक इंटरेस्टिंग बुक है. जो लोग पॉलिटिकली पॉलिटिकल स्टोरीज भी चाहते हैं, जो मिक्स ऑफ पॉलिटिकल स्टोरीज भी हों, और एक लीडरशिप की बात की गई जिसमें मेरा इंटरेस्ट था, लेकिन मतलब मैं बेसिकली हरियाणा के बारे में जानना चाहता था. तो इस बुक में मेरे को ज़्यादा पॉलिटिक्स मिली लेटर चैप्टर्स में, स्पेशली चौधर और इवन राइज एंड राइज में थोड़ा बहुत पार्ट था, और स्पेशली थ्री लाख तो पूरा पोलिटिकली है, पॉलिटिकल स्टोरी है. मैं जब से बुक को लिया और मैंने सोचा था कि इस बुक में क्या होगा, आई वॉज थिंकिंग मोर ऑन टर्म्स ऑफ वॉट हरियाणा इज़ ऑल अबाउट. हरियाणा का लैंडस्केप, हरियाणा की हिस्ट्री, जोग्राफी, हरियाणा का लोग, इट विल गो इन दैट एरिया. बट मोस्टली दिस बुक इज़ पोलिटिकल. जैसे कि शुरू में हरियाणा कैसा था और हरियाणा में क्या क्या पॉलिटिक्स हुई, इन टर्म्स ऑफ कौन राजा था और उसने क्या किया, कौन जागीरदार था, सिक्स ने क्या रोल प्ले किया, जाट्स ने क्या रोल प्ले किया, ऑल ऑफ दैट इज देयर. बट apart from it, this book really touches upon on those points where I really wanted to touch. But I really want to know about when I bought this book from Amazon, I just bought this book right away. So this is the book, and if you're interested in this book, you can go buy it. And if not, then I've already told you about this particular book. You can, see it. तो और जो बुक्स है मैं जो पढ़ने वाला हूँ अब इन फ्यूचर इज स्टार्ट विद वाई, hooked, the rudest book ever, and three more books that I've planning to read in this month. And I also read recently a book. Let me grab it from now. इस बुक के बारे में मेरे ख्याल से आप कुछ लोग जानते होंगे, बहुत से लोग जानते होंगे इनफैक्ट, शू डॉग फिल नाइट की. ये ऑटोबायोग्राफी है, और ये फिल नाइट ने बताया अपनी पूरी स्टोरी. फिल नाइट, इफ फॉर द पीपल हु डोंट नो अबाउट हिम, ही इज़ द फाउंडर ऑफ नाइकी. और इस बुक में बेसिकली पूरा स्टार्ट से स्टार्ट किया है कि जब फिल नाइट एक बच्चे थे, मतलब ही वाज बच्चे नहीं, मतलब ही वाज लाइक एन अडल्ट, बट ही वाज लाइक ए यंग किड आउट ऑफ कॉलेज, आउट ऑफ स्टैनफोर्ड. उन्होंने, और वो अपने बेयरिंग्स, अपनी लाइफ में गोल्स ढूंढ रहे हैं. एंड ही लाइक्ड running, and he, in his state of Oregon where he comes from, he has participated in several races under his coach. And as Phil Knight was passionate about running, his coach was passionate about what kind of shoes an athlete should wear when he's going on running, especially track running. सो ट्रैक एंड फील्ड में इंटरेस्ट है इनका, और किस तरीके से ये इवेंचुअली एक कंपनी बनाते हैं. तो मैं अभी इस पूरी बुक को नहीं पढ़ पाया हूँ, एंड आई हैव रेड अप टिल आई थिंक 70 ऑड पेजेस, 65 टू बी प्रिसाइज. 66 पेजेस मैंने पढ़े हैं इसमें. एंड आई एम ओनली आई रेड अबाउट 20% ऑफ द बुक आई थिंक. Yeah, close to 20%, not completely 20%, 18-20% मैंने book पढ़ ली है. And it's been 2 days since I've read it. Today I could not read much of this book, but this book is an interesting book and I really want to read it. I find it interesting. वो तो to give you an idea how he started by um, uh, buying shoes, importing shoes from Japan. Japan make shoes थे टाइगर शूज़. कंपनी का नाम था only something. I'll just give out the right name to you. Okay, it's called Onitsuka, Onitsuka. सो ओनित्सुका कंपनी के ये इम्पोर्टर बन जाते हैं, वहाँ से शूज़ लेते हैं किस तरीके से, और इस बीच में उससे पहले ये पूरी वर्ल्ड ट्रैवल करते हैं, इंडिया भी आते हैं, और ऑल ऑफ दैट एक्सपीरियंस हैज़ बीन मेंशन इन दिस बुक. सो it is if you like reading these kind of books, you can even think about that. And I am will be finishing it in 2-3 days, at the most 4 days, and then I'll be talking about this book too. सो दैट्स अबाउट इट. एंड मैं जानना चाहूँगा आप लोगों से कि किस तरीके के आप वीडियोस चाहते हैं, क्या इंटरेस्ट है आपके, मैं क्या इसी तरीके से बुक रिव्यूज़ करता रहूँ, क्या आपको बोरिंग लगता है या एंगेजिंग लगता है, जो भी है कमेंट में करिए, डिसलाइक करना है डिसलाइक करिए, कमेंट करके बताइए कि ये मज़ा नहीं आया, या फिर कैसे आप चाहते हैं, बिकॉज आई रियली वांट टू इम्प्रूव ऑन दीज लाइव स्ट्रीम एक्सपीरियंसेस. And today it was 1 o'clock in the night that I started, but tomorrow or day after, I'll do it like once every, like might be a gap of 1 day or might not, if I can continue doing it daily. Or if not daily, then I'll certainly do it every other day. Like I'll have a gap of 1 day and then I'll do another video the next day after that, that gap day. So मेरा idea है कि interesting, engaging और नॉलेजेबल बुक सेशंस हों जिसमें कि हम बात करें हिस्ट्री की. एंड मैं आपको उसके अलावा भी बात, मैं बेसिकली आई वांट यू टू गेट इन दिस हैबिट ऑफ रीडिंग, एंड इट कुड बी एनी रीडिंग. एंड in fact I'm coming out with a video on that particular topic, which will be my future next video, and along with a trending topic that'll come eventually. So all that will be covered. So I really want you to read books, and read anything. If not book, then a small piece of article. It could be an online article, or it could not be. It could be a newspaper also. So मैं अलग अलग वेरियस फॉर्म्स में आपको इंगेज करना चाहूँगा इन लाइव स्ट्रीम्स में, जहाँ पर मैं बात करूँगा जो मैंने पढ़ा है, और क्या आप उसमें इंटरेस्टेड हैं, नहीं हैं, किस टाइप की चीज़ में आप इंटरेस्टेड होंगे, ये आप मुझे बताइए. एंड आई ट्राई एंड ब्रिंग इट इन अ डिफरेंट वे ऑल टुगेदर. सो यही आइडिया है. एंड विद दैट थॉट आई एंड दिस कॉन्वर्जेशन, बिकॉज नॉलेज लेना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, चाहे जहाँ से भी मिले. क्योंकि इस डे एंड एज में जहाँ पर हम यूट्यूब पर, सोशल मीडिया पर बेकार में स्क्रॉल करते रहते हैं, और ऐसी ऐसी वीडियो देखते हैं जहाँ पर लोग अपनी लाइव व्लॉग्स कर रहे हैं कि मैंने क्या खाया, मैंने कुत्ते ने क्या खाया, मेरी मम्मी बीमार हो गई, मुझे भाई के पास जाना है, और पता नहीं क्या-क्या. और जो कि ऐसा एंटरटेनमेंट है जिसमें कोई सेंस नहीं है, जस्ट डम्ब्स योर सेंसेस, नम्ब्स योर सेंसेस टू बी करेक्ट. मतलब इसमें क्या नॉलेज मिल रही है, कुछ भी मिल रहा है, एंटरटेनमेंट भी क्या मिल रहा है. मतलब एंटरटेनमेंट एक होता है कॉमेडी, कुछ कुछ ऐसा फ़नी सा हो जाए जो आपको एन्जॉय करो, लेकिन हो सकता है बहुत से लोगों को ये अच्छा लगता हो. लेकिन व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज़ दैट इफ देयर इज़ समथिंग, if knowledge is coming your way, and if it is coming in the form of a live stream or a book video, then you should go ahead and check it out and give those creators a chance, including me. And I really hope that it made sense to you. And I'll keep coming up with these kind of videos. And I hope it made sense to you. And thank you so much for hearing, if you watch this video till the end. Thank you. Till until day after tomorrow or tomorrow.